Omega introduced the Speedmaster in 1957. It's become one of the most iconic watches purely by accident, if you will. The watch was originally designed for racing, for timing laps around a track. That's why it has the bezel that has a tachymeter scale, which allows you to track time on a fixed course in either kilometers or miles, depending on your unit. And the watch was so well designed that astronauts began using it, famously Wally Schirra and others early in the space program. And then NASA realized they should have a watch that's uniform because it was kind of almost private personnel. John Glenn wore a Hoyer stopwatch that was strapped to his wrist. Scott Carpenter had a Breitling that was kind of special with 24-hour time called the Navitimer, and that's what became known as the Navitimer Cosmonaut. So Omega was one of the watches that responded to a request for a proposal by NASA. James Reagan drafted it, and they drafted it in such a way that no one who got it, they sent it out to at least 15 Swiss watch manufacturers to their US distributors. No one that received that proposal knew that this was for watches in spaceflight. It was just very general. As James has told me, you would read it and think that it was just for watches for use on construction work or something. It just that the watch had to be durable and meet specific requirements, worn on your wrist and able to withstand different temperature variations and impacts. So basically only 4 companies responded. I'm sure if the companies could go back in time and respond, they would have. One of the companies submitted a pocket watch, so it was immediately disqualified rather than a wristwatch. And Omega was one of 3 companies to submit a wristwatch, and it passed all the rigorous tests, which included freezing the watch, heating the watch, severe impact. The watch just had a really wonderful design with how the movement sits in the watch and a very robust case. So it really withstood a lot of difficult treatment during that testing, along with other equipment that NASA was testing for use on all the scenarios they would face going to the moon. And it obviously kind of all started from there, and Omega didn't even realize what was happening until they saw Ed White in space wearing a Speedmaster, famously when he was doing an EVA outside of the space capsule into space, and the rest really took off from there. So it became known as the Moonwatch when it went to the moon, and obviously Omega changed the engraving on the case back to reflect this, which they still use to this day on their Speedmasters, that it was the first watch worn on the moon. I think they said on many of them the first and only watch worn on the moon, which is of some controversy now as to whether other watches made it to the moon, but that's what they have engraved on many watches.